The Encourager is brought to you by Rebekah Scott Designs, your headquarters for custom handmade purses and accessories, a unique way to express your inner beauty. Design your own at shoprsd.com. That's shop and R as in Rebecca, S as in Scott, and D as in design. Shoprsd.com. Thank you.
Hello, I am Rebekah Scott, your very own host of The Encourager. I am speaking to you from my home in Valley Springs, South Dakota, in my little studio shop here. I am a wife, I am a mother of 4, and I am an aspiring entrepreneur and the owner and designer of Rebekah Scott Designs. I sew and design purses and accessories, and now I have started this podcast as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today. I hope to provide you with a message of encouragement each week that motivates and inspires you to be your best self. Hello, this is Rebekah Scott coming to you with episode number 4. I am super psyched to share a few things today. This episode is about joy, how to find joy, how to continue with joy, how to seek out joy. It's a huge part of my life, and I want it to be a huge part of your life because it makes a huge difference when you approach things with joy. So first of all, to have joy, joyous people are grateful. Joyous people have a lot of things to be grateful for and see them easily, see how to be grateful easily for the things in their life. And I'll break that down a little bit. So being grateful, they say gratitude is an attitude. I don't believe that's so, only because I learned this from Brene Brown, who's a very popular author with Oprah as such. But gratitude is not an attitude, it's a practice. You have to practice being grateful. It's not something, sometimes it comes naturally for people, but it's also something you need to practice. And if you practice being grateful and you practice being thankful for all the things that you've been given, naturally you find joy because you're listing things that bring you joy, things that you are grateful for. And so it's not something where, I'm just going to be grateful today, I'm going to have an attitude. Yes, that's a good thing, but you need to practice it also so that it comes naturally to you and without hesitation. So for me, in order to practice gratitude, before my feet hit the floor in the morning, I have to say 5 things that I am grateful for. And it may just be my fuzzy slippers, a cup of tea, and my running shoes, or the coos of Pixin in her little bassinet next to me. Whatever it is, 5 things quickly before I get out of bed. Now it just comes naturally. I basically can't even open my eyes before they start just rolling off my tongue. So then I get out of bed. Then before, another practice that I have is when I get in a car, I don't allow myself to turn the radio on until I've listed 5 things that I am grateful for. And that's another thing that automatically, my kids do it with me as well now too. They know they can't turn the radio on or any sort of device until we have all said something that we are grateful for. It's a really good practice to get into. My husband is the same way. He's lined up things in his life that he does, that he says he's grateful for before he starts the project. So it's a practice. What can you do in your life to start practicing being grateful? What kind of steps can you take to start putting it as a practice and not an attitude? Another thing is I list my things that I'm grateful for. I started a gratitude journal. I read this really good book called 1,000 Gifts. And it really taught me about how to find joy in the simple things and how to be grateful for the simple things. So I just started listing things. And you could set an index card next to you all day to start getting in the practice of this, and you'll be amazed at how many things we just take for granted and how many things that we should be grateful for that others do not get to enjoy so easily. So start making some plans of how you are going to get into the practice of being grateful and how you're going to start some lists, whether you write them down or you say them, but how are you going to start practicing being grateful? Because once you are grateful, you can start practicing having joy in all kinds of things because you are grateful for those things that bring you joy. So the second thing now is the joy. Once you are grateful and you've listed things and you're in the practice of being grateful, you can be joyous. Joyous people are grateful. The definition of joy is a state of happiness or felicity, which is a really fun word to say. But, ooh, and even Pixin is joyous over here as well. Joy is a choice. And I would say that, I naturally wake up joyful, but it also is a choice, sort of like the gratitude practice that you need to make. Honestly, when you think about your life, what do you have to complain about? If you're eating food and you've got money to buy the food and a warm bed, you're better than 2/3 of the world right now. So there's not a lot that we have to complain about. I live in the Midwest here. There's not a lot I have to complain about. It doesn't mean that there aren't hardships, but it is true that I don't have a lot to complain about. And a way that you can kind of narrow down if you're somebody who complains and maybe you've been told gently by a family member or something that you want to improve upon not complaining, I challenge you to a very interesting thing. I challenge you to spend one whole day not complaining. And every time you do complain, you have to strip off a piece of clothing. So you can start with your rings and your earrings and your socks and things like that, but pretty soon it's going to get dire, okay? So practice doing that just for one day, or maybe it'll only take half a day before you're in your skivvies. But practice not complaining. Because when you are not complaining and thinking about what you're miserable about, you have to think about something else. Maybe you start thinking about what you're grateful for, and therefore causes you joy. So that's a really, what would be the word, aggressive way of challenging you for the strip down, but believe me, it works. And maybe your hubby or your loved one will benefit from it as well, but try to spend a whole day not complaining and then kind of judge yourself on where you were on it. Did you do really good? Did it take half a day? Did it take a whole day? But practice not complaining. Then also, like if it is a serious thing in your life that you need to think about, okay, is this going to interrupt my life if it's a big challenge in your life? How can I make sure that I do this with joy? I always play worst case scenario. So if I'm tackling this podcast and I go, okay, am I going to encourage all these women? Yes, that's my intention. What's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is 2 people listen to it and I carry it on for 6 months and that's the end of it. That's the worst case scenario. So when I know what the worst case scenario is, it's easier for me to attempt something than if I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I play the worst case scenario in my brain so that I can continue to have joy and not be in fear of whatever it may be. So worst case scenario, play that when you know that you have fear about something. Dive it all the way down to the end is what is the worst case scenario if I take this on? Then you get the fear out there. You can decide what is the worst case scenario and how fearful you will be from that worst case scenario. Or is it really that bad? Maybe I will have joy, even if it doesn't succeed or whatever the challenge may be. Okay. So when you do the worst case scenario, then start building up to joy. But if it's not worst case scenario, how do I get to the joyful part of this decision? Now, like I said, I'm not saying that there isn't tragedy in life. Believe me, there's tragedy in life. I don't want to sound like a Pollyanna. I'm a very realistic person as well, but I'm also a very upbeat, optimistic person. But I have had personal tragedy in my life as well, and I feel like I should share so that we can connect one-on-one. My oldest brother, Philip, passed away last summer from suicide, and he dealt with alcoholism and depression for many, many years. And in the end, we realized that depression is what killed him. And we struggled, and I was able to be there for 3 different attempts and to help him through them, and we tried everything possible. But in the end, I just truly believe that he couldn't take it anymore and the depression killed him. And I know in my heart that he is with Jesus and he is rejoicing and he has sent me all kinds of signs from heaven that he is well now and he is healthy. And it's a beautiful place to be. I'm sure I wish he was here, and I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. I wish he was here, but I know that he's in a better place, and I know that Jesus is taking better care of him than me or my family ever could have. So we have experienced tragedy as well, but I couldn't get over that in my family. We have also experienced so much joy. With Philip's passing, I just know that Jesus is near to him, that we can still glorify him, and that he is well taken care of. So even in that tragedy and circumstance, I can still see the glory of God, and I can still find joy in the years that I was able to spend with him. So, enough of that. I just wanted to explain that not all of life is hunky-dory. I realize that there's hardships, but even in the hardships, where can you find joy and a way to glorify God in those? So, this is kind of a buzzword, but it really does make a lot of sense. You've heard about the law of attraction, basically how you attract things into your life from what you are putting out there. So why not attract joyful people? Just by listening to this podcast, I hope you're attracting me because you want to be joyous as well. Pixon is over here very joyous. I want you to feel uplifted. Be the light and the inspiration for other people. So if you want to start a lot of attracting and start attracting joyous people, be the joyous people that attracts others. I have negative people in my life. Everyone does. And in order to still remain their friends and to work with them a little bit, what I do is I sympathize with them. If they're complaining about something, I definitely sympathize with them and offer them encouragement. But then I divert the conversation, not to myself, but I divert the conversation into something joyous. Or if you get really good at it, if you have really negative people in your life, you figure out how to find something that they enjoy and start talking about that. You figure out a way to find what they're joyous about and start attracting things into their life that they find joy with. So ask them, hey, what do you enjoy doing? Ask them about their hobbies. Ask them about their family. Get them to smirk. And when you get them to smirk, then you know that's their sweet spot. That's what makes them joyous. So I usually just divert a complaining or a negative person to a happy place in their life so we can both then attract joy into our life and not stay in an ugly place. Or at least problem solve a little bit, sympathize with them, and then move on to the joy. Because ultimately, God calls us to be beacons of light in the darkness, and that's what I want to do. So, if you are in a place in your life where you're like, how do I find joy? Okay, Becca said I need to. So, in order to find your joy, once you have found things to be grateful for and you've started listing them, maybe you don't know what makes you joyous. Start narrowing down some of your hobbies or some of the things that make you smile or smirk. And a way of knowing that is, do you have adrenaline after you do an activity? Say it's Frisbee. Or it's sewing, or it's baking. What can you do without, you start it at 10 p.m. at night and you can go till 2 a.m. and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's 2 a.m. I love doing that. That's a sign that it's something that you're passionate about and something that makes you joyful. Also, so if it gives you adrenaline, you lose track of time, or you're visibly smiling while doing it, that's a pretty good sign. It's something that causes you joy. So do more of that. Block out time to do more of that. Also, one of the big things I'm on about joy is your approach to things. If you approach things with a negative attitude or I hate doing this, well, guess what? You're going to hate doing it. But what if your approach was let's try it or let's at least get through it? Even that is less intense than I hate this, I can't do this. And if that is your approach, maybe it's something you don't need to be doing. A lot of this is how I approach my with parenting also, and so I thought I would share this story. My third is Rosalind, and we call her Rosie, and we had an experience where she broke a snow globe. And it wasn't a particularly wonderful snow globe or anything like that. I didn't spend a lot of money on it or anything like that. But she wanted to look at the snow globe. And I was a little cautious because I didn't want her to get hurt and stuff with it. And I trusted her to hold it, and I did say, be careful. But my attitude when I gave it to her was not, this child, this 2-year-old, is going to break the snow globe and it's going to be terrible. My approach was, I'm going to trust Rosalind to hold this snow globe and watch the joy on her face as she watches these little snowflakes fall. Well, sure enough, she accidentally dropped it because she carried it away when I stepped away to do something else, and it fell. Now, when I approached her about it, it wasn't like shame and I can't believe you broke this snow globe, but okay, let's clean this up together. And what did we learn from this? We shouldn't have carried it. I should have explained to her, just stay right here while you look at it. And I think it didn't break our trust between the two of us. If I would have approached it after she broke it, like shame on you and I can't believe you broke this or fear or anything like that, then she would have not trusted me again. So the trust goes both ways. I hope this is making sense to you, but if you approach it with, I trust you and you trust me, and this is going to be a positive, wonderful, joyous experience. It didn't erase the memory I have of her eyes sparkling as she watched the snowfall. It didn't erase any of that, and it didn't erase it for her either. She just learned, oops, I shouldn't have walked away with it. But my mommy still trusts me. It's just really important that you establish trust in relationships with people because it's more joyous. If you approach things with trust and with joy, these things will come back to you in your life as well. So turn around situations like that, or turn around situations with your children or your in-laws or your family to joyous occasions. Like I went for this walk with a family member, and I was all excited. It was 5:15 in the morning, which is prime time for me to be joyous. And up and at 'em, and we get to the top of this hill, and I'm so excited to see this lake. And we get to the top, and I go, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. And my instant words are, oh my goodness, this is beautiful. Look at the sun shining through. And my friend that was with me goes, ugh, crappy water. So I just thought, This is such an occasion of I see the joy in it, not making me superior. That's not what I'm getting at. But my approach was I'm going to climb the top of this hill and see this water. I couldn't even see that it was crappy because I was so excited to make it to the top of the hill and to see water that it was like, this is beautiful. I'm going to glorify him. And her approach was, I can't believe I made it to the top of this hill. This sucks and the water is crappy. So, think about the words that you spew out there, that's being returned to you as well. And if you approach things with, this is going to be fun, and this is going to be beautiful, even if the water is murky, and truth is, the water was murky, but I saw the sunlight, and I saw the joy of reaching the top of the hill to see the little pond. So think about the way that you approach things. Same thing with dishes. My twin sister and I laugh because we both hate doing dishes, but my approach to it now is, well, it's kind of like a bubble bath. When you have 4 children, bubble baths don't exactly happen anymore. So if I could get into soapy water, even if I'm washing dishes, I could pretend it's a bubble bath. I can approach it with a little bit of joy and a bubble bath for my hands. Approach things with, okay, it's not going to last that long. And, like my episodes talk about, time everything, dishes take like 10 minutes. Seriously, they only take 10 minutes. So 10 minutes of getting my hands nice and soapy and time to look out the window and be grateful and say gratitude, I can handle that. I'm not going to hate doing dishes anymore. And guess what? I don't hate doing dishes. Sarah's working on it. She'll get there. But, even like the grummy chores that you don't like doing, first of all, time them. Find out how long it takes you to do them because it might not take that long and you'll go, it's only 45 minutes. If I've got 45 minutes, I can complete this task. You're going to be more joyous while doing it because you know it only takes that long. And your approach will be, once I'm done with this, I get to do whatever it is that does cause me joy. So, I know I talk fast. It's the way I am. Just keep up with me. Today's episode was all about joy and gratitude. First, you must have gratitude. It is not an attitude. It is a practice. How are you going to practice being grateful? And second, once you are grateful, you can be joyous. Even amidst tragedy in your lives or a position in your life right now that you don't want to be in, how can you find joy? So be grateful first, then find joy in it. And seek out joy. Seek out joyous people. Who will make you happy? Who can you make happy? Then it will be returned. And also, how do you approach things? Do you approach things negative? Do you approach things with the word hate or this stinks or whatever? And how can you turn that around? Listen, if I can turn around dirty dishes into a pleasurable experience, I'm sure you can turn around some of the situations into your life different as long as you approach them with a positive attitude. I hope this has been helpful. Make your list out and be sure to follow our reflective guide, which is just basically homework and how to keep you accountable to taking these steps in your life. I want to encourage you, so do the homework. And if you will, please share and rate and review this podcast so we can keep up all the good work. Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share with another work-at-home mom that you know who may also need some encouragement as well. Also, please subscribe, rate, and review the Encourager podcast to show your support. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for joining me today. As always, be sure to make time to nurture your family and grow your faith this week and find what you are passionate about and learn how to balance and prioritize your life. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode and I hope you join me again next week on The Encourager.